Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be walking you through a tutorial on using tranquilpoet.com in the classroom, and I'm also going to share with you the results of an integration project where we did use Tranquil Poet with some students, and we'll see how that went and what we learned from it. Before we begin though, I want to show you what tranquilpoet.com looks like. So here's the website. As you can see, we can put our title right here of a poem, and we can write our poetry right here. So the whole point of this site is to help people write poetry better. And so the two things that the site really helps you with are meter and rhyme scheme. So if you can see right here, I've input what rhyme scheme I want. And then right here, as I write, I'm going to get a list of words that rhyme in this rhyme scheme. And then I'm also going to get a syllable count that helps me if I'm writing with a specific meter. So the first line of my poem, entitled The Poet, is, I once saw a poet in a coffee shop. Now as soon as I start writing the second line, I'm going to get some words that are going to help me rhyme with shop. So let's see. I once saw a poet in a coffee shop who, I'm looking at my choices, let's go with stop, who simply couldn't stop writing poetry. Okay, and we could continue on from there. So that's what Tranquility or tranquilpoet.com looks like, and this is how it operates. So now let's take a look at the present. The title of the unit for our technology integration project is Using Language to Express Yourself. We're going to be looking at writing poetry, and this is scaffolding to write narrative prose. So we're going to be writing narrative poetry in order to help students transition to writing narrative prose. And what we want to come out of this is that students will understand the importance of spending more time with your writing, of getting multiple drafts, and be able to compare and contrast their writings before they were using Tranquil Poet and after they've used the site. And so hopefully this will help them to pay attention to the vividness in their language and choosing words carefully. We believe that this will help students because it gives them the confidence and a little bit of support to do the things they need to do. So the site doesn't write your poetry for you, but it gives you little prompts to help you write it yourself. So this is almost like using crutches. When we're looking at the 4 C's, we see communication, we see creativity, we see critical thinking when the students are designing their story that they're going to use for their poem, especially when we're asking questions that don't have standard answers. So we're asking students to look at an image, the image that you saw on the previous slide, and answer questions like, what do you think this image means? What could be the story behind this image? What happened right before it and right after it? What do the characters feel in this image? So since there are no right answers here, students have to create things. They have to think critically, look at what they have to create their own answers. And then we also see collaboration as the final one of the 4 C's. So students were given time to collaborate in creating their stories. And then you could also add more opportunities for collaboration when you publish the poem. So you could do sharing in a Web 2.0 tool. You could use Padlet, some of the sticky tools, a class blog if you have it. You could post comments. And even before that, you could take a step back and do peer editing before you post. And all this comes together to help with the CCGPS standard 10W3. So this is about narrative writing. So we're developing, in this case, imagined experiences using effective technique, well-chosen, detailed, and well-structured event sequences. We're also focusing on engaging and orienting the reader and creating a smooth progression of experiences or events. And we're looking at the language using precise words and phrases, telling details, sensory language, events, setting, or characters, all trying to create a vivid picture. We thought that this would be best situated in an English classroom, and again, the unit would be narrative writing, and this would come before the students have had to write prose essays. So this would be the step before students write an essay. Poetry, while it is intimidating in different ways than an essay is, it's shorter, and so students will feel maybe more confident about writing a shorter narrative and really focusing in on the language and how important that is before they go to a full-length essay. We saw this with a 10th grade level, and we actually implemented this with 5 rising 10th grade females at West Forsyth High School in the computer lab. Because it was summer, we did not have access to the tablets or the laptop cart, so we did use actual computers, but we imagined this more in a classroom with students with laptops or tablets on their desks working, so you have a little bit more mobility and then the lesson took 45 minutes to implement. Some of the results of the lesson. The students gave positive feedback about Tranquil Poet. They found that it was very easy to use. There were very few questions once we put them on the site. And they really appreciated the matching words that helped them with the rhyme scheme. Based on what the students turned in, everyone met the exemplary standards in the rubric that we've created. So we had 4 areas of content that we were assessing, and then 4 areas that the content could fall under, ranging from exemplary to poor. So the first area of content that we were assessing is that it was a narrative poem. We wanted a story with well-chosen details, well-structured events that introduced a problem, situation, or observation or point of view to tell the story. And if you'll notice, a lot of this language comes from the standard that we looked at, the W3 standard from the CCGPS. And that's done on purpose. That's so that we're making sure what we're assessing is what we need to assess under the CCGPS standards. The language of the poem is another area of content we looked at. So we wanted precise words and phrases, telling details, and sensory language, and we wanted to make sure that it conveyed a vivid picture of a story associated with the painting. We asked that the length of the poem be 8 to 10 lines long. You might question why we would count off for more, and that's because students need to learn how to write under certain parameters. So if a professor asks for an essay that is 3 pages long, he doesn't want you to write a 10-page essay. He wants a 3-page essay, and there's a reason for that. So same thing, we're taking baby steps to teach students how to write with certain restrictions placed on them. And then the last thing we looked at was the poetic form, and this is where Tranquil Poet really helped. So a poem is written with noticeable pattern in rhyme and meter. And then there's a place for the final score. So let's now talk about the results of the lesson. Overall, the students seemed pleased with Tranquil Poet. They said that they would use it again if they were instructed to write a fixed form poem by their teacher. Let's look at the results of the lesson. The students, as I said before, were very pleased with Tranquil Poet, found it very easy to use, and they said they would definitely use it again if they needed to write a fixed form poem for a class. Things that we learned when implementing this lesson with Tranquil Poet. A help option would have been good, not with how to use the site. The students picked up on that very quickly, but with different examples of rhyme scheme. So AABB is the standard one, but we could, maybe have options that explain ABAB or what the rhyme scheme is for a certain sonnet if they wanted to write in that form. Now, the other side to this is that this is where the teacher can come in. So just like we don't want the Tranquil Poet site to do all the work for the student, we don't want it to replace the teacher either. So this is where the teacher could front load and teach students these things, or just teach them as they come up when students are using the site as just small teachable moments. And then the other thing that we saw a small problem with was printing. So when students went to print their poems, the rhyme scheme, the matching words, and all the other stuff from the site printed as well. So students didn't like the look of it. They wanted their poems to look more professional, which is good because it shows some pride in their work. And so what we did was we copied and pasted the poems onto a Word document, and then they were to print with different fonts and make their poem look more professional look. So again, this was the technology integration project for Emily and Daniel, Vickie, Derrick, and Lindsey Needham. And we were looking at writing narrative poetry under the CCGBS standard W3 with tranquilpoet.com.